We're all afraid of change. We don't like change. So this is where change management comes into play, and it's very critical to the success of a transformational journey.
Welcome to our program, Jump Into It. Business change can translate to millions of mistakes or millions in profit. Welcome to Jump In, turning your vision into prosperity. And with us today, we have a change management expert with over a decade of experience changing businesses and very passionate about making a difference. Angelique Price, thank you for joining Jump.
You're very welcome, Gabriella. How are you tonight?
Oh, I'm wonderful. I'm so excited to hear all of your journey and how you entered into this field of change management, where everybody is hiding behind change. You are in the forefront of making change happen. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you got into this field, or about your journey on where change is going?
So I have to say it's a sort of a destiny. It was meant to be, but it was also a deliberate decision. Throughout my experience, I have quite some experience, especially starting, first of all, with hospitality management back in Switzerland and France, then moved to Canada. Fast forward, changed career, worked in a software company, implementer of a solution. And then went back to school to learn computer engineering, became a programmer developer for a few years, then moved to consult. I had a consultant job as specialized in implementing a project portfolio management solutions, various industry, government, banking, pharmaceutical as well. And then from there, I worked in the financial industry, still in the project portfolio management solution, standing up practice for in wealth management. And then we went through 3 organizational restructuration in 1.5 years. That was a lot.
Wow.
And the first one, I was basically told that my role became obsolete after standing up that practice. And I was offered this new role as an employee engagement and communication lead. So as you can imagine, I fell off my chair, thought I have no expertise in this. I don't know anything. I could communicate, I could write, of course, but I felt I didn't have the expertise. And my sponsor at the time said to me, and I remember I asked the question, do I have the choice? And she basically said to me, Angelique, no, you don't have the choice, but I know you can make it. And in that role, I was going to work closely with the vice president. And so first thing I did was really getting to know, speak with other people who were doing this in the organization. It was a big organization, so there were all the communication lead, and really jumped into it, learned about communication, learned about a great deal on how to write concise and clear communication. Also learned about other communication plan, building a communication plan, communication tactics. So at the time, the executive I was working with wanted to convey his new vision, new mission after that organization restructuration. So I really learned a great deal about communication tactic, organizing town hall, writing key messages. That was the foundation for what I do now, and that what I'm passionate for. Because as a change lead or change management lead, you need to understand the lever, one of the levers for succeeding in implementing a change, which is the communication. Then after that, went on still in the financial industry, implementing various changes, moved to change management, where I got my precise certification. And then I was at a point where I needed to make a decision. do I want to go back to what I was doing before, project portfolio management, or do I want to stay in change management? And I really enjoyed that new role, and I decided to jump into change management more seriously, getting experience. So moved into the a government agency where I implemented, I worked on a transformational initiative using change management best practices. Then I decided to become a consultant and go back into to work to another important implementation. And then pandemic hit. So as you know, pandemic hit, a lot of changes. Luckily, I was able to complete my project, working on my projects, and then I found my last engagement for Desjardins as a senior change management consultant. And here I am now, really enjoying every day. And I think it's a good combination of everything I've learned. And I was asked recently, where certainly it's a big change from being a programmer developer. There's no connection there. Oh, absolutely, there is, because the reason why I went back to school to learn about engineering and being a programmer is I always had a passion for solving problems. And as a change management lead, you have to think on your feet every day and solve problems, especially on those large transformation initiatives where you lead. You may lead a team of 70 people who are, who are following your directions. So, and coming back to you when they encounter issues, roadblocks. So you need to help them resolve. It's certainly a collaboration work. And my hospitality management background, it's about caring for clients, caring for, and as a change manager, you need to care. You need, if you show you care, or let me rephrase that, if you don't show you care, why would people who are going to receive the change care for the change that you are implementing? By showing care, collaboration, people will get on board and you'll minimize resistance. So really, this is where all my experience now linked or blends well into that role.
Wow, that's quite the journey where you started in never expecting to end up here, and you just evolved as the needs of the organization were. You stepped up to the challenge, and then you surpassed expectations. Sounds like even within yourself to be able to master change management through organizations.
Exactly, Gabriela. You have to take risk in life. And you have to go into those areas where you're not comfortable. This is how you progress. This is how you will learn, and you'll be better equipped to make a better decision as to what you want, what you don't want. You have to accept. I mean, I've been to interviews um, where I was not sure about the role, but then as we talked about, it would end up being, well, we actually have that other position coming up. Would you be open to it? And it was a challenge for me, but I accepted it. And there's always an opportunity to change the course if it's really a failure. But you learn with your failure, and you learn by taking risk and stepping into uncomfortable zones.
So, what was your biggest challenge in your career with change management? What were the biggest obstacles that you had to overcome?
Well, an obstacle that comes often is obviously the lack of engagement from those that are impacted by the change. As you know, organizations, and this is why this role is so important, organization has changed more quickly, more rapidly, and are changing drastically, right? For instance, in the financial industry, they are in the process of upgrading, changing all of their legacy systems to newer systems. But it's not just about the systems, it's about changing the culture as well. Imagine artificial intelligence. And I don't know much about it, but it has an impact. Organizations are interested into it and are starting to looking into it. So when you go through big changes like this, that not only changes a system, but also processes, as well as the mindset, how we work, it's sometimes very challenging to get everyone on board. As you and I, we're all afraid of change. We don't like changes. This is where change management comes into play, and it's very critical to the success of a transformational journey like this. Is that you have to, in order to get everyone on board, you need to communicate. That's very important, as early as possible, and to really communicate with some important key messages, consistent key messages. What it is that we're changing, why we are changing, very important. What are the benefits of changing? What's next? How you will change, when you will have to change, how we will support you. Once these elements are available and we bring awareness to the communities or the teams that are going to change, there's a sense of ease, and resistance is minimized. It's an example I always put forth is, and it happened to me in my career, where I would be told on a Friday that, by the way, next week you are moving building or you're changing desk. And I'm like, what? I don't know about this. Why are we doing this? Why? So in fact, when I did the work location for a division years ago, this is the first thing we did is coming up with these key messages in terms of we're moving. Okay, sounds very simple, but why are we moving? To align with the new strategy, to align with in view to attain our new capabilities. You will move we will expect you to move by this date. You will get a box to put your things in. If you have any questions, please connect with us. We will obviously make sure to address them. So no one wants to be taken by surprise. This is removing, and this is the key objective of a change managers, is to remove that element of surprise prior to a change. And how do you do that? You do this by communicating, mobilizing your everyone from the executive leadership team to key representative of your employees. You prepare for training, right? So how are you going to train? And you prepare a plan for reinforcement. As you know, and you might ask me, where is the failures, where organizations have failed in change management. They've deployed something and they went on to the next project, which still happens a lot because there's so much in the pipeline. It's important after a change is deployed to continue reinforcing, monitoring the adoption of the change, and you do that through surveys, etc. So
Okay, interesting. Because well, I'm in marketing, and we are change agents in organizations as well, because we're always trying to come up with new ideas, new plans, build out strategies. And one of the challenges that we have is you can't have the change without the buy-in. And I think you talked a lot about how you get that buy-in. But the other thing that is always coming, because I have to sell in the change, is it has to come from the top down. So if there is resistance in leadership, because maybe one department in the organization is all gang ho for the change, and then the leadership is on board, but other departments are resisting. And it's really, if you don't get the buy-in from the leadership team, then you don't get the change is really challenging. What are your thoughts about that?
Oh, absolutely. It's not only the buy-in, because typically the executive leadership team will ask for the change to happen. They understand the urgency, but it's the support of the leadership team. In fact, I always say, especially for big transformational initiatives, the first awareness message, whether it's an email, whether it's a segment at a town hall or a message on the intranet side, has to come from the highest rank in the organization. Executive sponsor or whomever on the success of that initiative. I mean, it's not going to be, as I said multiple times, if I put my name out there, nobody knows who's Angelique. Nobody
Yeah.
cares, right? I mean, of course they'll
Yeah.
get to know
Yeah.
me, but if it
Yeah.
comes down, if that first awareness message comes from the executive or the executive sponsor who owns the success of that change, then it will have a greatest impact. And in that message, again, we would not only explain what we're changing and when, even if we don't have a date, at least a timeline, but
Yeah.
the explaining the compelling reason for why we're changing. It might be because we're no longer competitive. All of the competition have already implemented that change. Could be, a technology platform, etc. Outlining the benefits as well. That's very important. This is what you will gain from that. What are the benefits? Better
Mhm.
customer experience. That's important because if we don't keep our customer, guess what? We will lose our jobs, right?
Yeah.
There's other, I mean, cost saving, etc., depending on what we are implementing. And transparency is very important as well. So these are other benefits. This is what we'll gain, but also the success of change management. And I always say that it is based on transparency and trust, a relationship of trust with all your stakeholders. So not only you should outline what you are gaining, but also what you're losing,
Yes.
right?
Yes, that's a good point. Yeah.
And if some jobs have to be cut, then of course this has to be worked very closely with human resources and probably legal as well. But include that in the messaging. As I said, removing the element of surprise is paramount.
Yeah. And what do you think is driving the biggest surge in organizational change today? Is it AI or
It's not
what are
just
you?
AI. It's been happening for a decade, if not 15 years now, where, as I mentioned, organizations have been working with legacy systems that are so old. So there's an urgency to change those systems, either because they are no longer supported, like on your laptop when all of a sudden you have a message from Microsoft saying if you don't upgrade then you can't function, operate. There's that. There's also obviously the evolution of technology that is changing more and more quickly, and organizations that have to adapt to their ever evolving, rapidly evolving client needs, right? Now, uh, nobody wants to really go to a branch. They want to do all their banking on their phone. So that's not something that has been implemented in 2 days. There was a lot of work, and still, because the more we progress in the future, and every day there's a new app coming up, there's a new feature, and clients will come to us and say, well, why don't you do that? Your competitor there, they have this. So there's the fixing the old, I call it the old spaghetti system, because legacy systems can be very complex and they continue
That's true.
building on it for 30, if not more years.
Yeah.
Um, so there's replacing that phase by phase. It's a phased in approach, of course, and that's
And it's
been
a very
happening for
expensive
years.
thing for Yeah.
Plus, there's implementing new technology, such as an example is artificial intelligence that is coming, yes, fast and furious.
Well, it's interesting you say because we are in constant change. So they say the pressure of technology, AI, your job's continuously changing. You change so many different times because you have to deal with the different changes and how you're going to approach in the organization. So, how are companies dealing with the fatigue of change itself and building resilience around having to deal with change?
In order to deal with fatigue and build resilience and therefore minimize resistance,
Yeah.
organization have to be aware of what's going on in their environment. Like how much can our employees absorb for changes, especially with these
Exactly.
especially with these big transformational changes. And the way to do that, well, it's to understand when I start working on a project, I sit down with each stakeholder to understand their environment. What's going on out there that I'm not aware of? What else are your employees working on? Are they going to implement in the same dates? And so if that's the case, that we know there's a risk, right? So raising the risk and then mitigating the risk. That's important to prioritize for organization their initiatives. Rome was not built in one day, and we can't. And we can't just cram everything through the pipeline to our
Yeah.
employees and say, just deal with it. That will fail. That will end up failing. So either you fail, the change is not correctly implemented, or you lose your talent, right?
Mhm.
So, and I don't think organization. So there's obviously a prioritization work that happens in terms of which big initiative should we undertake. But and beyond that, there's also really collaborating with those that are impacted and walking in lockstep with them. So, and showing again empathy, sitting down with the stakeholder and understanding what's their environment, what risk they're saying, what is the best way we can help them go through that change. Once they've understood, obviously, what it is that we're changing, why we're changing it, etc. So work of collaboration and working with them to make sure they are implicated in the change, engaged. So that will minimize resistance and that will help with rolling out changes. And sometimes, the employees have to work on multiple initiatives, but as long as they know we've asked them, we've cared, and we will help them go through it, right? It's also about celebrating every wins, right? Everybody works super hard,
Mhm.
and recognizing this, praising them, and it's not waiting at the end of the project, but throughout the project. Hey guys, we've made it through that phase, through that particular milestones.
Yeah.
Kudos to you. Here is something. Um, so we can finish up. It's really, to me, a great change lead will prioritize collaboration, uh, will uplift the team, will rally, uplift the team, and also empower them, right? Plus, obviously, using the emotional intelligence and empathy.
Yeah. So, I mean, we are going through a lot of change, and this sounds wonderful. The empathy, listening, providing. I was in corporate for a long time. I found those skills or the ability or investment in doing that had dwindled over time as more and more change was implemented, where at one time there would be just change on an annual basis. Then it became on a quarterly basis, and then it became almost monthly. And so the downfall, I think, is mental burnout, fatigue, overstressed. Are you seeing that through your career in change management, that this is
Absolutely.
just is a growing problem?
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes I have no choice. I'm told by the executive we need to launch this. We've been waiting, or we're late launching this in comparison to our competitor 2 years after. There is no chance. So you have a push. So unfortunately, as I was saying, the result of that is resources moving on, uh, leaving. And I think there's definitely a better understanding of this and a higher consideration of this into the plan. And as a change lead,
Yeah.
this is one of my responsibilities, to raise the hands and say, guys, this is not working. My resources will not be ready. They will not have time to transition. So this is where change management has a big say at the table. It's not always possible, but it is my responsibility to raise the risk and say, fine, you want to keep that hard date, but I cannot guarantee the success of the adoption of the change.
And what do you think? Like, you talk a lot about timelines and adoptions, and can you give an example of how long it takes to make a change in an organization?
Oh, there's no standard, there's no average.
How long is the string?
3 years for a big
3 years?
transformation project. Oh,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's still a long time, but in there you have little constant changes to get to your end goal.
Oh, constantly. I mean, often, unfortunately, a change manager should be engaged early in the process, like from the beginning, when the business case is built, and we're looking at because this is the foundation of the key messages, right? But often, what I find is the change lead could be brought in late, midstream. So at that, but there's always changes. And then I've been on projects where there was especially the regulatory changes. Let's not forget those, where you have some set of instructions that are coming off a government body or whichever. And sometimes those instructions are not clear at all. They will send further details later on, but with very, very tight timelines. And you cannot miss that date, because if you meet that date, then the organization will have to pay a fine, right? If they're not compliant,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I found myself with these constraints where yes, when this you have to function with ambiguity. So this changes all the time. Oh, we thought the impact would be that, but all done. We got more details now. We're changing. There's a lot of changing, and especially in a project that lasts. So maybe not the case of a regulatory project, but a project that lasts up to 3 years or even more. So there's a lot of changes even in the resources themselves. People leave, people go somewhere else, so people move within the organizations. So that's
Yeah, they take their intelligence with them, and
right. And then you have to start
how the
again.
process, yeah.
And so
Yeah. Yeah.
a lot of turnaround. And this is the nature of business. This is the nature of life, right?
It's true. Yeah.
People may stay in an organization for a long time, but they will move around every 2, 3 years or so, typically, especially maybe with the younger generation. Dates may change as well. The scope will change because some news came, some news came out of a competition doing something, and all of a sudden, or even a new executive come on board and has some new ideas. Project will get stalled. We start a new one, or a project will continue, but we want to reduce or augment the scope. So this within the change implementation, there are a lot of changes. So you have to think on your feet and have that solution, that mindset of finding solutions. Okay, we're changing the scope. How can we get to the finish line with that amount of time? So solution is we have to be very agile. We work concurrently on some, on some activities, etc. And sometimes we have to cut corners without obviously sacrificing the quality, but as long as, the essential is covered.
So we didn't talk about mergers and acquisitions also creating a lot of change. Or, when I worked in corporate, there was always this centralize all the processes, then the marketing, the operations, the HR, and then the new head would say, no, we decentralize everything. And then you'd go back to it would be this way back and forth, right?
Exactly. As I said, when the leadership changes, sometimes you see this. Oh, we're going back to what we were doing. But ultimately, I think we are evolving, and we have to. We're becoming more nimble, more agile. The waterfall methodology, where you wait that until A is finished to start task B. It will work for certain type of projects, like regulatory, but for other projects like technology development, you have to be really nimble and empower the team to make decisions. The command and control mentality is going away as well. We have to trust our employees to make some decisions wisely, of course, still having the lens of governance that is required. So I think companies are moving or have moved already, a lot of them in this agile framework, right? Where you have to be fast. Clients now, they don't want to wait for 6 months, a year before a new feature is out. It's every week, every month. Look at Amazon, Google. They have that rhythm, and that's why they've been so successful, is because they've implemented new features continually every time. Those companies,
and marketing the same way.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. Marketing, you have to be very agile. You can't just put a program in place and pray and spray, and then look 3 months later. You have to look at the numbers almost daily. And some organizations, and I have worked with them, where daily, every morning, they look at the numbers, they look what the competition is doing, and then they make a reaction. They bring everybody to the team, and the pace is almost burnout pace. But that's how their industry rolls. So what would you say was the hardest change management thing that you had to do? What was the toughest?
Well, the toughest was not necessarily the biggest project, but was one when I was brought on and I was told I had 3 weeks to deploy a change, where I thought that was completely unrealistic. But it was a regulatory slash processes and new system. From a technology standpoint, from a process analysis standpoint, they had done some research, but from change management, nothing had been done. I had to get up to speed super quickly, and then say, okay, this is that date. I cannot change that date. How do I get to the finish line, like I said earlier, without sacrificing the quality and making sure my employees are ready? So as I said, it's looking at those key activities, and then when that situation happens, you won't be able to do it perfectly or deploy everything, all of the support material, for instance, or the training that you wanted to. You have to analyze what is a must, and the rest will follow the implementation. It is possible. Not everything is a must have on day one of the change.
Interesting. Yeah.
So that was one of the hardest. And I mean, I had other projects that were very ambiguous. Like I talked about a regulation that was mandated by IRS and very ambiguous statements and instructions, yet the deadline was very close, and this one was impacting close to 3,000 people. So no, no margin for error. But yeah, so that was one of the challenge. But I mean, in every case, I was able to. I'm very pragmatic, right? If I can follow the nice process, I will. But when I don't have the luxury of time, and I don't have time to think much, then I have to go to the essential. And if it means not necessarily using the tools that exist in the organization, using some much nimble tools to understand, who is impacted, what's the impact, and where do we go from there, right?
So with your personal insights, and obviously you have an enormous amount of experience, and I can see that you're really passionate what you do. And what advice would you give to leaders today that want to either enter to become a change management or they're new to the field? Like, what advice would you give them?
Definitely be mindful of, as I said earlier, of your environment, understanding if you are an organization who's looking for change for the first time, having a foundational framework in place is helpful. ADCAR is a very good one, and a ProSci certification. Change managers are ProSci certified, so they know the ADCAR methodology. So that will help going through the steps. Now, in terms of someone who wants to get into change management, sorry, I would say definitely look into ProSci. That's the first step. And then get experience as much as you can. But I think everyone, without knowing it, everyone has done some change management of some sort. They may not have had the title or followed prescribed framework, but even yourself in terms of marketing, in order to deliver something to your clients, you've had to, have them familiarized with what you wanted to do, then how this was going to happen, and how they were going to, adopt the final product, for instance. So,
Yeah.
yes, I'd say to someone, if you're passionate about problem solving, understanding the human impact that change has, having some project management skills is very useful as well, as sometimes you work with a project or program manager, but you have your own schedule, especially on large initiatives. You need to be able to know what are our next deliverable, who's working on what, and have a way of keeping the line of communications open to make sure that we are moving forward swiftly. And also be able to help with issues that they are encountering, as they would look to the lead to help resolve these issues.
Thank you so much, Angelique. If somebody wanted to contact you, they have a change management project and they want to learn more about change management, how could they reach you?
Well, they could reach me by email. My Gmail address, priceangelique@gmail.com. Thank you very much. Absolutely, do not hesitate. It will be a pleasure to help anyone who has any questions about change management and how to effectively implement change management or go through the process.
Okay. Thank you again for being a guest. On the next show, we'll have another fabulous guest who's sure to inspire you. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple, to name a few, for listening to our podcast. With the knowledge and courage to bring your ideas to life, get ready to jump. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Gabriella, for having me.
At Jump Into It, we empower business owners, marketers, and entrepreneurs to turn their dreams into reality. Want to supercharge your marketing efforts? Join our expert-led training at 360integralmarketing.com and get practical tools you can use right away. Don't miss out. Get ready to jump into it.